I wasn't talking about anything. I just started the video. Hello. Today I want to talk about the thought daughter, the thinking daughter, the overthinking daughter, the ruminating daughter, that's been talked about on BookTube, but especially Book Talk. It's a whole meme. It's like such a... I love how this meme came about. Like, I love seeing the transformative nature of memes. Like, that's an amazing experience. So, thought daughter, the daughter that's overthinking, that's trying to understand the world with her inner self, with her inner dialogue and monologue. I was very much a thought daughter, especially, as a teenager, as a child. It was very much, it was one of my core identities, the trying to understand what was happening to me, around me, by just deeply thinking about it, because I felt kind of like isolated. I don't know if it's... I don't think thought daughtering is a communal activity, because I think a lot of the defining characteristics of a thought daughter are linked to some level of isolation and some level of feeling alienated from the community. But when I was younger, I felt very much that I had no idea how to relate to people around me. I had no idea how to look at myself, and I had a strong sense of identity that was not that I was not able to bring outside of myself. And that's where the ruminating comes in, where okay, I know what's going on, but do I know what's going on? I don't know if my perception of things is realistic, because I think a certain thing and everybody else is saying a different one. I think that thought daughtering is very much a socialized female experience, because it is kind of like, especially for a younger person trying to understand what it means to be a girl, a woman, a female friend, a dating prospect, a girl boss gaslight, a cottagecore lesbian, like all these identities to womanhood. You are trying to understand how you fit in them and how they fit within you. And because these are very much like just label, like very generic labels that do not encompass the actual human experience of actual humans, there's always gonna be like a friction there. There's always gonna be, they're never gonna fit perfectly. But you as a young person are trying to fit these expectations of womanhood, girlhood that are ever changing. Like this whole things of you need to be the princess and you need to be the badass, that type of thing. As a woman, you're never gonna win, and that's kind of the point of patriarchy. So yeah, I think that's my theory of why it's such a big thing for women, especially. And I'm generalizing. The main reason why I'm not a thought daughter is that I'm non-binary. Like, I figured that out. The main reason why I couldn't fit any of those things is because I'm outside of the conversation, looking in, being like, oh, is this about me? It wasn't. Now I understand. But I come to you in my high femme era, just to talk about this, because I was a thought daughter, and I did read thought daughter books with what I think is the feeling of thought daughters, and what I think is the need of the daughters that are thinking. But yeah, I'm not anymore for a bunch of reasons. I'm not I'm not a daughter for a bunch of reasons, and also like, I'm older. I know I don't look it, but I am older, and I've figured a lot of stuff. I was very lucky that my thinking and my ruminating and my trying to understand were always coming from a sense of there must be something better going on, and there must be a better way of thinking about myself, about the world, and there must be something I can do, because it's such an internalized process, the thinking, the overthinking, the obsessing, the spiraling, and there's a lot of conversations about mental health and what it, this is kind of like your way of coping to something that's actually hurting you, I get that, because again, I was there. The best way to not, like, stuff that helps is bringing it outside of yourself. Well, the best way is find a good therapist. That was incredibly helpful. Another good way is kind of like understanding that the more you keep spiraling within yourself, the less you'll be able to actually figure yourself out, because it will start to become an echo chamber of your own self within you, and you're not gonna be trying to explore who you could be or who you want to be if you keep thinking of, oh, who am I? Just try different stuff on for yourself. Have life experiences in the safety of, your own understanding of your own boundaries. But yeah, do stuff. But why am I psychoanalyzing people people who might just stumble upon this? I don't know anybody. I'm here to talk about books. I just wanted to share some books because I was like, oh, I think these are the books that I would have liked when I was a thought, or that I did like when I was a thought daughter. So, let's bring in the books, shall we? Okay, so here are some books. This is not a comprehensive list. This is just the ones that came to me, like off the top of my head. I thought they were appropriate. So let's start with my what's it called, the genesis of my thought daughterness, which is Jane Eyre in this beautiful edition. I have two Jane Eyre editions, because you have this one. This is mine. This is for myself. This is like my copy, and then this is the copy of whenever I see somebody, I'm like, you should read Jane Eyre, then I can lend this copy to them. You need that. If you have a favorite book, you need a lending copy, and you need a that's mine copy. So Jane Eyre. Why do I love Jane Eyre so much? I read it when I was, I think, 12. Of course, in my mother language, not in the original English. I was not a prodigy child. But I read it when I was like 12, 13, something like that. And it really stuck with me because the main character felt like I was feeling at the moment. She felt like somebody who was like knew who she was, but was not able to understand why nobody else was like her, or why nobody else got her. And she felt isolated, she felt rejected, she felt misunderstood, but never in a way that was defeated. When I read Jane Eyre, I kept thinking of, she's not just accepting that she's weird and people will not love her and people will not understand her. She's saying, all of you are weird because you don't even take the time to try and understand me the way I'm trying to understand you. Mind blowing! For a teenager that was just starting middle school? Mind blowing! For a bullied kid? Ah! And so, like, this book gave me kind of like the thing, and also like the way she kept being a good person. She had a shit life, like literally Dickensian life, and she kept being a good person. And so it felt in a narrative landscape that was we hurt the people around us because we've been hurt by the people around us, like in that dog eats dog world type of early 2000s narrative landscape. It was very refreshing to see somebody who was like, I don't give a fuck if people are mean to me. I don't want to be a mean person, so I'm not gonna be mean, and I'm still gonna be okay. I'm still gonna be happy in the end. So that's what I got from this book. Written beautifully, highly recommended, amazing. Jane Eyre. I read Giovanni's Room. I mean, I have Giovanni's Room on me, but anything from James Baldwin, it is very much that thing of trying to understand, like, not I want to say James Baldwin is not even necessarily a thing of I'm trying to understand the world. It's trying to explain the world to a world that doesn't know itself, like trying to explain to people why they are feeling the way they're feeling, why they are suffering the way they are suffering. It is a crowd of people shouting, why am I hurting? And somebody saying, this is why, but you need to listen to me and change it. This is James Baldwin, in my opinion. And also a lot of like social commentary and kind of like, but in a way that's kind of like, this comes from this, and now you understand that, right? Blah, blah, blah. Like it's very, again, intellectual, but in the sense of trying to make sense of something, trying to explain something to you. Really, really great. And I'm very happy that I finished Giovanni's Room, because it was one of the like 19 books that I had started, and I finished one. I started a bunch of other books in the process, but I finished one of in my never-ending pile. So yes, but yeah, James Baldwin, really great. Anything, again, I have Botchan on me. But anyway, anything by Natsume Soseki, again, it gives me the same feeling of trying to make sense of the world. I know, like, I keep saying that phrase, but to me that's what overthinking was. It was trying to understand. I don't think I overthink that much now, but I do still overly analyze, overly process what's going on, because it's a complicated society we're living in, it's a complicated interrelationship dynamic system that we're living in. So, and then this is not taking into account, why people are so fucking awful on a global level. Why do we have so many genocides? Why do we have so many acts of inhuman violence happening in our cities, and why is everybody a fascist now? Not even taking into account all of that, like trying to make sense of the world is trying to make sense of your own life. And I think Natsume Soseki does both very well. It shows how the world around him is changing, and how it's so hard to make sense of that very complicated world when you're like in also trying to understand who you are as a person, what you want, what you need, what's important to you. Like that relationship between inner conflict and outer conflict, incredible in Natsume Soseki. I would really recommend. It is a massive book, and I enjoyed it also because I enjoy his writing style. But there's his book I Am a Cat, that's from the perspective of a cat just living in the house of a I think it was a writer or a professor in a like a it's very hard to explain because it is a book about seeing the life of men through the eyes of a cat, but it's so great and it's so poignant and it's so interesting. It's not a cozy read. Also very harrowing, but not in a horror way, in a you're feeling too many emotions type of way. So but I highly recommend it. So yeah, that's Natsume Soseki. Then we have Chlorine. I realized that I was having too many classics in here. Excuse me. I was having too many classics happening here. So I was like, what's a modern book that I read that I think it's, Chlorine. Talks about this young girl who is an what's that word? The opposite of amateur. Like professional swimmer as a very, very, very young age. It talks about how professional juvenile sports kind of like the violence that it brings to kids, and the constrictions and the all the issues relating to being brought up in a you go to the Olympics one day, and it is very, very harsh, this book. It has some elements of maybe magical realism, maybe just mental health delusions. Very hard book. Check the content warnings, please. A lot of body horror, but I'm the type of person that really doesn't like body horror. I still thoroughly enjoyed this book. It felt like watching a car crash happening, but I'm so glad I read it. If this is not the thing for you though, there's other books on this list. You don't have to read this one. But if you're the type of person that gets something out of the inner violence being portrayed so in such a raw manner, read it, because it shows very beautifully how our inner spiraling, inner overthinking, overanalyzing, over-rationalizing, over-compartmentalizing, how that can really, really hurt us, especially when we're young. This is an amazing book, Sorry, I'm sniffling. My allergies have been going crazy, and it feels like it's September outside because the weather is awful, but allergies are still happening. Another one is A Room of One's Own. I think this is very good if you're trying to understand your role as a female, as in like you have been categorized as a female, and so the world treats you in certain ways because people are looking at you saying female. I think this is a great book for that, trying to understand why you are having such a hard time just on the fact that people see you as female. And I mean, I love Virginia Woolf's writing. It is not the easiest in terms of actual ease of read. It's quite a I want to say hermetic. Is that a word in English? I think like it's not very flowy. I mean, it does flow, but then you read the whole paragraph and you're like, wait, what did you say? I think, oh, it sounded very beautiful, but I didn't get anything of the actual meaning of what you were saying. But it is very because this was a talk that I believe that it was a lecture that she gave like in person. This feels very much more understandable on impact, whereas a lot of other Virginia Woolf books, I love them, but I have to reread them once or twice. Maybe it's take into account English is not my first language, so maybe for an English speaking person, like the first language English speaking person, Virginia Woolf would not be as hard as it is for me. But A Room of One's Own deals beautifully with kind of, again, that sense of why just because people see me as female do I have to, have less rights, and like very practical, very real, very day-to-day things. And also briefly, it briefly talks about how to deal with that, like first steps to take to understand, again, the world doesn't just suck. The world sucks and you need to do something about it. That type of thing. So Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. And then we have Herman Hesse and Steppenwolf. And this is literally just like, this is a fever dream of a book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It feels like I'm on acid. Never done acid. It's probably like somebody who has done acid will be like, no, this is nothing like being on acid. But for me that I've never done acid, when reading this book, it does feel like I'm on acid. And I love it. And also, again, it is that way of trying to figure yourself out in a world that has told you who you are, and you know that that's not who you are. You don't know who you are, though. You just know that that's not who I am. And I don't think this is a spoiler, but basically the moral of the story is, you're not one thing. How in the world could a human being just be one thing? How? It's very hard to get. That's why I'm saying it, because it's like I got it on my like second or third reread. It's very hard to get this from this book because it's so weird and very, very magical realism, very fantastical. That's the point of this book of don't limit yourself to being a person, being an individual. You are like you contain multitudes, but in the real sense of there's no one way to be yourself. You're multiples of yourself, myriads of yourself at any moment that you're living, that type of thing. I don't have a copy because I read it from the library, but another really great book for that is The Color Purple. And I think it's such a beautiful story. It's such a beautiful story. It's such a beautiful narrative voice, a beautiful character journey, because it is the story, fundamentally, in my opinion, of a woman that was never taught to be herself and to think for herself and to understand herself. She was taught how to dismiss herself her whole life, but she learns how to think. She learns how to see what's happening outside of her, and listening to her own voice that tells her what is right, what is wrong, what is her, what is against her, what is within her, and what is outside of her. Like literally, it talks about a woman that has been treated as less than human her whole life, and now she has the tools, literally the inner tools, to make sense of her own past and looking at her future and act on it. Again, it is that thing. I don't know why I'm banging so hard on this point. I think it's because a lot of the stuff I saw were about thought daughters and about, you know, just feeling helpless and feeling isolated and feeling alienated, and remembering how I felt when I was in that phase of my youth. It's you just need to keep going. You just need to keep looking outside of yourself. You just need to keep struggling. And it sucks and it's awful, but in this book and a lot of these other books, it shows you that the best way is creating a community, participating in your own community, and participate in your world. You are in the world, even though it doesn't feel like it. It might feel like you're completely detached. It might feel like you're completely other and isolated and alien to the world you're living in. I know it doesn't sound true when I say it, but you're not. You are part of something. It is just hard because this something is so disconnected in itself. The world doesn't know how, like, and I'm talking about the world as in the people living on Earth don't really know. We're kind of forgetting that we're human beings, and human beings are people, are creatures, and I think we're trying to again behave as if we're not human, but we are, and human people, like human beings, I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna stop here because I don't have a degree in philosophy, alright? I dropped out of university. And there's like, why am I talking out of my ass? Why? Who am I? I was here just to talk about books. These are books. The Color Purple as well. Please, like, go check that out. It's amazing. Another cool book, very cool book, Ella Minnow P. That's just cool because it's an interesting book. And if you're hyper intellectualizing stuff, that's a cool book to read. That's it. You know what? I'm gonna stop right here because I think I've said things that are too complicated for even my, you know, self to tackle. Just, you know, read books. That's always a good option. Bye bye.